It's a Sunday afternoon. Markets are closed. And a trader, let's call her Alex, is doing what she always does before the week starts, scrolling. She opens an app, and the very first thing she sees is a screenshot. Someone she's never met turned $2,000 into $30,000 in 11 days. Green numbers. A rocket emoji. 200 comments calling him a genius. Alex has been trading for 8 months. She's up 11% this year, following her plan, taking her losses in stride, doing everything a disciplined trader is supposed to do. And in the 4 seconds it takes to read that screenshot, all of that suddenly feels small, slow, almost embarrassing. On Monday morning, Alex isn't following her strategy anymore. She's chasing a version of trading that isn't even hers, copying trade ideas from strangers online, sizing up because 11% a year suddenly feels like nothing, and quietly starting to believe that whatever she's doing simply isn't enough. Nothing about her actual strategy changed over that weekend. Her edge is exactly the same as it was on Friday. What changed is what happened in her head after 4 seconds of scrolling. And that single shift is often the difference between a trader who compounds steadily for years and one who blows up chasing someone else's highlight reel. This video is about exactly that trap, the one built entirely out of other people's screenshots, and by the end, you'll have a concrete way to protect yourself from it permanently. Every piece of trading education talks about risk management, entry and exit rules, position sizing. Almost none of it talks about the fact that the average trader today isn't just competing against the market. They're competing against a curated, edited, highlight reel version of every other trader they follow online. That's a relatively new problem. 20 years ago, a struggling trader was mostly alone with their own results. Today, they're one scroll away from someone's best day ever, presented with zero context, at any hour, completely unprompted. And here's what makes this genuinely dangerous rather than just annoying. Social comparison doesn't just make you feel bad for a moment. It actively changes your trading behavior, your position sizing, your patience, your willingness to follow your own plan, often without you consciously noticing the shift is happening. There are 4 stages to this trap, and like the ones we've covered in previous videos, each one feels completely reasonable while you're inside it. It starts with something as small as opening an app on a Sunday, and it ends with traders abandoning strategies that were actually working. Let's walk through exactly how that happens. The first thing to understand is that what you're seeing online is not a representative sample of trading results. It's an extremely, deliberately curated one. Think about the actual incentive structure. A trader who has one incredible week out of 50 mediocre ones has every reason in the world to post that 1 week, and 0 reason to post the other 49. A trader who's actually up 8% this year, slowly and consistently, rarely makes a viral post because I follow my plan and had an unremarkable but profitable month doesn't get comments or shares. Explosive, lucky, or outright fabricated results do. This creates something behavioral researchers call a survivorship illusion. You only see the survivors, the outliers, the lucky streaks in your brain, which is not built to automatically correct for sampling bias. Quietly starts treating that curated highlight reel as if it represents the normal, average outcome for a trader. It doesn't. It's the extreme tail end of a very wide distribution, and you're only ever shown one edge of it. Now here's where it gets worse. A large number of the most viral trading posts aren't even real. Screenshots can be edited in seconds. Paper trading accounts, demo accounts with fake balances, and outright fabricated numbers circulate constantly, because engagement is the actual product being sold, not honest results. Some accounts posting these numbers are running signal services or courses behind the scenes, and the eye-popping screenshot is the marketing, not the track record. So when Alex saw that $30,000 screenshot, she wasn't just comparing herself to an unusually lucky trader. Statistically, there's a real chance she was comparing herself to something that wasn't even true. But here's the part that matters most for you, right now, watching this. Even if every single one of those screenshots were completely real, they would still be a terrible benchmark for your own trading. You're seeing one outcome, stripped of every risk that was actually taken to get there. The account that got blown up right before the winning streak. The 50 failed attempts that never got posted, the amount of capital actually risked to generate that percentage gain. A $30,000 win on a $5,000 account tells you almost nothing useful without knowing the position sizing behind it. And that number is never in the screenshot. You are comparing your entire process to someone else's single best moment, with all the context deliberately removed. That is not a fair comparison. It was never meant to be one. Once the highlight reel has done its work and your own results start to feel inadequate by comparison, the second stage begins almost automatically: the chase. This shows up in three very specific, very common behaviors. And it's worth naming all three because most traders only recognize one of them in themselves. The first is copying trade ideas from people online instead of following your own criteria. You see someone post a ticker with a rocket emoji, and instead of running it through your own checklist, you take the trade because someone else, someone who seems to be winning, already validated it for you. The problem is you have no idea what their actual risk management looks like, what their account size is, what their exit plan is, or whether they're even still in the trade by the time you see the post. You've imported someone else's decision without importing any of the context that made it a reasonable decision for them. The second is position sizing creep, driven purely by comparison rather than by your own account or risk tolerance. Alex's 11% for the year was genuinely solid, sustainable performance. But standing next to a screenshot of a 600% week, 11% suddenly felt like it wasn't worth the effort. So she started sizing up, not because her edge or her account justified it, but because she was unconsciously trying to close the gap between her real results and someone else's edited highlight. The third, and the most corrosive long-term, is abandoning a strategy that was actually working simply because it looks boring next to what other people are posting. This is genuinely tragic when it happens, because the trader isn't failing. Their process is fine, sometimes even excellent. They talk themselves out of it purely because patient, steady, unglamorous gains don't feel like enough anymore, next to a stream of curated wins from people they've never actually met and know almost nothing about. Here's the psychological mechanism underneath all three of these behaviors. Your brain evaluates enough relative to what it sees around it, not against any fixed objective standard. This is a well-documented pattern outside of trading, too. It's the same reason someone with a genuinely excellent salary can feel underpaid simply because they follow people online who appear to earn more. The number itself didn't change. The comparison point did. Trading works exactly the same way, except the cost of chasing an artificially inflated enough isn't just a bad mood. It's oversized positions and abandoned edges. The traders who protect themselves from this stage share one specific habit. They define what enough looks like for their own account, in writing, before they open any social feed, not after. A target return, a maximum acceptable drawdown, a specific process they're committed to following. When that definition exists in writing beforehand, someone else's screenshot has almost nothing to compare against, because the comparison point was never supposed to be other people in the first place. There's a slower, quieter version of this trap that does more long-term damage than any single bad trade, and it's the one traders notice last because it doesn't look like a mistake. It looks like humility. After enough exposure to other people's curated wins, a specific kind of self-doubt sets in. Not did I make a mistake on this trade, which is healthy and useful. Something closer to, maybe I'm just not built for this, or everyone else seems to get it, and I don't. This isn't reflection. It's a slow erosion of confidence in a process that, when you actually look at the numbers, might genuinely be working. This matters because confidence in your process isn't just a nice feeling. It's functionally necessary for consistent execution. A trader who secretly doubts their own edge starts hesitating on valid setups, second-guessing entries that meet every one of their own criteria, and exiting winning trades early out of a vague, unexamined fear that they don't actually deserve the gain. The strategy hasn't changed. The person executing it has quietly lost faith in it, one scroll at a time. There's also a specific trap inside this stage worth naming directly: survivorship bias applied to yourself. You start believing that if you were actually good at this, you'd have posts like theirs by now, without accounting for the fact that you're comparing 8 months of honest, real trading against someone's single best, possibly fabricated, possibly leveraged beyond reason moment. You're not measuring the same thing. You never were. Here's a reframe that genuinely helps, and it's simple enough to remember. At 2 a.m., when the doubt shows up, you are not behind. You are on a different private timeline, running your own specific numbers that nobody online has access to and nobody online is actually comparing against. The trader who posted the $30,000 week has no idea Alex exists. He is not thinking about her progress, her account size, or her strategy. The entire comparison only ever existed in her head, which means it's also entirely within her control to stop running it. So how do you actually protect yourself from a trap that's built into an entire industry of curated content? Not by willpower alone. The same way motivation didn't fix the revenge trading spiral in an earlier video, willpower fades the moment a scroll takes 3 seconds and a dopamine hit follows. You need structural changes. First, define your own scoreboard in writing, completely disconnected from anyone else's results. This means a specific, personal target, a return goal, a maximum drawdown you'll tolerate, a process you're committed to following for a set period, like a full quarter. Once this exists on paper, someone else's screenshot has nothing to attach to. You're not asking, am I doing better or worse than them? You're only ever asking, am I doing what I said I would do? Second, change what you actually consume, deliberately and specifically. Unfollowing or muting accounts that only post when screenshots isn't weakness. It's the exact same category of discipline as a stop-loss. You wouldn't leave a losing trade open indefinitely just because closing it feels uncomfortable. Don't leave an account open in your feed that consistently distorts your sense of normal performance just because unfollowing feels awkward. If you want to follow trading content at all, prioritize accounts that show losses, drawdowns, and process alongside wins. That's a far more honest and far more useful picture of what real trading actually looks like. Third, track your own process metrics, not just your P&L. Did you follow your entry criteria today? Did you respect your stop loss? Did you avoid revenge trading after a loss? These process-based questions are things you can answer honestly. They're entirely within your control, and critically, they cannot be distorted by comparison because nobody else's screenshot ever shows their process, only their outcome. If you measure yourself on process, comparison loses its power because you're now measuring something the highlight reels never show in the first place. Fourth, and often the most overlooked, remember that time horizon matters enormously, and social media compresses time in a way that's actively misleading. A feed shows you someone's best week, stripped of the months before and after it. Real, sustainable trading is measured in quarters and years, not in individual screenshots. Alex's 11% for the year, if repeated consistently, compounds into a genuinely excellent long-term result. One that would look completely unremarkable as a single post and would still outperform almost everyone chasing viral $30,000 weeks over any meaningful time frame. None of these 4 fixes make the temptation disappear entirely. You'll probably still see a screenshot that gets under your skin occasionally, and that's fine. That's just being human. What they do is remove the behavioral consequence of that feeling. You can notice the comparison happening, feel the small sting of it, and then simply not act on it because your scoreboard, your feed, and your metrics were all built in advance specifically to make that possible. Let's bring the whole cycle back together. It starts with a highlight reel, a curated, often exaggerated or outright false snapshot of someone else's single best moment, presented with zero context. That illusion triggers a chase, copying trades that aren't yours to copy, sizing up to chase a feeling of enough that was never yours to begin with, and sometimes abandoning a strategy that was genuinely working. Left unaddressed, that chase slowly erodes into quiet self-doubt. Not about any single trade, but about whether you're even capable of doing this, based on a comparison that was never fair in the first place. For stages. 1. Root cause. Measuring your very real, very honest process against someone else's edited, best-case outcome. Go back to Alex for a moment. 8 months in, 11% for the year, following her plan. By every reasonable measure, she was doing exactly what a disciplined trader is supposed to do. The only thing that actually went wrong that Sunday was a 4-second scroll and an unexamined comparison. Nothing about her strategy or her actual results. So here's the one question I want you to ask yourself the next time a screenshot makes your stomach drop. Am I comparing my full process to their full process, or my honest reality to their curated highlight? If you can catch that distinction in the moment, you've already protected yourself from most of what this video covered. If this helped you see your own feed a little differently, subscribe, because next time we're covering the specific habits professional traders use to build genuine, durable confidence that doesn't depend on anyone else's results at all. I'll see you in the next one.